Hi again, everybody. We're just coming up to the lunch break here at Campaign360, and rather than let him have his lunch, I thought I'd steal him outside so we could have a chat. This is Matty Burton, APAC Creative Chief at Google Zoo. Hi, Matty. Thanks for stopping in with us.
No problems.
Great. I want to talk to you about what we were just talking about in there, which was the kind of intersection between creativity and technology. People talk about that in media, in advertising, in marketing all the time. And it seems like when most people I speak to talk about it as if they're almost at loggerheads, you know, you can have creativity or you can have technology, and if you have one, it dilutes the other, but I presume you've got a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if mine's that different to a lot of people's, but I don't think you can have one without the other these days. I think that, creativity for its pure sake of just being creative, like that's art. And if we're talking about more commercial creativity, then technology obviously plays a massive role in that, in either how we deliver it or how we create it or how we actually feed those insights around what we need to do.
Yeah.
And then also technology is kind of useless without creativity. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
You know, so finding human and creative applications for it is what really brings it to life, and that's where it kind of becomes exciting. So,
okay, yeah. I mean, I presume that's it. Like, you know, from your point of view with Google Zoo, you know, you've got both sides of it. You've got access to all that technology, and you've got great creative strategy in you as well. And presumably, you can quite happily create new things with a mix of both.
You can create new things all the time, and even by mixing different things or, you know, just by playing with stuff, you often stumble over something that you weren't into, or you might be on a journey to try and do something very specific and discover things on the way. Okay, it is an interesting kind of, the technological process is also the creative process, and it mirrors it in many different ways. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I was going to say, you know, that word, you use play. It was something that we're talking about a lot inside. And do you think that's just it? I mean, it sounds very basic, but like, do people just need to stop worrying about whether it's technology, whether it's creative, and just get back to playing with stuff a bit more? There must be so many more options now through technology for you to play with.
Totally. And I like, that is one of the good things about Google, not to harp on about like the company that pays me, but it makes a lot of its stuff open source. Yeah. So, everyone's banging on about machine learning. Well, TensorFlow exists. It is online. You can use it for free, and you can muck around with it. Like, there's some awesome videos on YouTube that will teach you how to do it, but then you look at people who've done stuff like farmers who've figured out how to sort their cucumbers so they don't have to stay up late, and just little interesting things where you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think creative people should do that more.
Okay, yeah.
You can buy things like voice kits, like do-it-yourself little voice kits, or another thing called paper signals, which you can build and code really easily, and they kind of work off all those kinds of data signals that you can just grab from the net. But we should just be playing with this stuff all the time and mucking around, because that's where, like, by doing it, you'll learn it, and also cool ideas will come from it.
And presumably part of that is trying to get across the message that playing doesn't necessarily have to cost lots of money, you know? I mean, people throw around these big terms like machine learning and AI and VR and Internet of Things, and, every time you hear about them and they're new and shiny, you think, right, the dollar sign is going up, but presumably that's what you're saying in terms of things that are open source. Machine
learning is free. It just takes time. So that costs you nothing. That voice kit I mentioned, I think that's like $15 US. Okay. The paper signals are like $6 or something. Or you can just buy a Raspberry Pi and build it yourself. Like, it's pretty simple stuff. Yeah. And it's but by doing it, I think you kind of start to understand and start to play and learn, and, as creative people, that's kind of what we should be doing.
And presumably, if you're not doing it, someone else is, right? Because the whole point of creativity is finding the new way to do something, find an interesting new idea. And if you're not at that cutting edge, you're not keeping up.
Totally. And it's not even necessarily having to be at the cutting edge, just a lot of the skills that we've learned as creative people, which is kind of what I was talking in there about, are really transferable. Like, the principles are all the same. And, even, say, voice, which is like a new trend thing. But, online, again, there's a program called Dialogflow. It's free. It teaches you how to use it. You've got to wrap your head around it, because you're now constructing conversations and you need to think about answers and, where things might go. But all copywriters that I know are best placed to do that, because they're thinking about the audience and, what a brand might sound like in that space, and that's kind of really interesting. So I think the more it's so easy to upskill, and most of it is free. I think we just have to do it more.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think one of the things you came back to earlier and saying was, all it costs is time. Is that part of the problem, that people don't have the time anymore? Because whether you're a marketer or within an agency or working for a platform or whatever, constraints on your time are huge. There's always more work to do. There's always more stuff that needs to just get done. So is it about being maybe more disciplined or having leadership say, look, take the time out to go and try these things and then we'll come up with something great?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think time, wherever you spend it, there's an opportunity cost because you could be spending it somewhere else.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you kind of have to figure that out for yourself, really. But also, I think the kind of tech stuff that I'm kind of talking about, I think Anthony made the point that it shouldn't just be one person in an agency. It should be everyone. And that's what I think is kind of really cool and really easy. And when one person figures it out, even if they do it by trial and error the hard way, for them to then teach everyone else is really easy. So maybe it's about dividing and conquering a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, could you come back to that? Maybe people talking about digital transformation. Could you maybe try and have, creative transformation and get some of these copywriters to sit with sort of the tech people and vice versa, and get them to start sharing ideas more, holistically, and then maybe they'll learn from each other more.
Yeah, totally. Or they're not that different a kind of breed of people, to be honest. And I think naturally, if they are in an agency, I think they're kind of grouping together anyway. It's just more about, there is a lot of technology in the world. There is so much, and there are so many different platforms and different ways and different things. No one person can know all of it. It's just impossible. So playing with all the stuff and people knowing different parts of it and then coming together is where I think the magic will happen. And that's just as much a creative's job as it is a technologist's job. Yeah.
Great. Well, I guess the takeaway is everybody just get playing.
Everyone get digital.
Excellent. Cheers, Matty.
No worries. Thank you.